figured everybody could hear me anyway. And so that's call to order. We do have a quorum. All right. Introduction of agenda and format of hearing.
Thank you, Chair. So for each item tonight, we'll have a call to order followed by a staff report. Following that, the applicant will have their chance to make a presentation. Then we'll have public comment in support or opposition to the request. At that time, please state your name and address for the record. Be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. And following that, commission and staff will have an additional discussion. And then the commission will vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial of the request, or to table the item. Items that are heard tonight will go before City Council for their consideration on the Monday, March 4th regular council meeting. On consent agenda, we have excusal of absences for Commissioner Henricks and Commissioner Kuhn and McCatherine from the February 5th, 2024 meeting. As well as approval of meeting minutes from the February 5th, 2024 meeting. And then we have 2 items on new business. We have a zone change for the Pearland Town Center located at 11200 Broadway Street, and then a conditional use permit for a beauty school within the Old Town General Business located at 2400 South Texas Avenue. With that, Chair, I will pass back to you.
Okay, Lawrence, do we have to have a motion and a second to move this stuff around, or can we just do it?
You could use what we would call the chair's privilege to do it unless there's an objection, and then you have to do a vote. So if you wanted to move something on the agenda, say I'd like to move this here unless there's objection otherwise, and as long as there isn't, you're good to go.
I would like to move some things around on the agenda tonight. The consent agenda, I would like to move to the last item, and I would like to move the CUP up to be the first item tonight. Is there any objections? Okay, then that brings us into the new business, consideration of possible action, conditional use permit application, CUP 24-06. A public hearing, a request of Celicia Gross, applicant on behalf of Charlotte Mills, owner, for approval of conditional use permit for a beauty school within the Old Town General Business, OT-GB district on approximately 0.1159 acres of land. General location 2400 South Texas Avenue, Pearland, Texas. Turn it over to staff. Can I have a motion to and a second for approval?
Commissioner Fuertes' motion to approve.
Commissioner Dugas, second.
Okay, turn it to staff.
Thanks, Chair. So as mentioned, this is a request for a beauty school at 2400 South Texas Avenue. It is within the Village District, which is what the Old Town is generally classified in within the comprehensive plan. And to date, we have not received any public comment forms in opposition or in favor of this project. So as mentioned here, we see the site just south of Broadway Street along South Texas Avenue. As mentioned, it is within the Village District. Looking at the uses that surround it, you have a single-family residence to the south, an office to the west, an office and a beauty studio to the north, and then a restaurant to the east. The subject property was annexed into the city in 1959. The property was developed with a 3,500 square foot office building in 1983. And the property is currently not platted. So here's a view of the property. And then here is a proposed interior floor plan. So this generally meets the approval criteria within the conditional use permit. The change of use on the property will require the site to meet the parking requirements for the proposed use. And then, of course, any interior alterations will meet both building and fire requirements. Staff found that this generally met all of the conformity requirements for approval of the conditional use permit, and as such are recommending approval of the requested conditional use permit. Hand it back to you.
Thank you, staff. Is applicant present? Do you want to give a presentation? Yes, ma'am. Go to the podium, please. State your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Celicia Groves. My address is 8321 Broadway, Pearland, Texas 77581.
Okay, so you do not have a presentation. You just here for questions, and if we have any questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right now we can't dialogue, but we will get back to you.
Okay. Sit here or should I?
You can go ahead and sit down. Persons wishing to speak for or against this item? Asking a second time, people wishing to speak for or against this item? Third and last time, people wishing to speak for this item? Okay, hearing none, that opens it up for commissions. Anybody got anything?
Just to understand, more for staff, what is the trigger to be here? Is it a change in use? I know it was a commercial building earlier.
Right. So within the Old Town General Business District, a barber or beauty school requires a conditional use permit.
Fantastic. And I think there are currently other, I don't know the right vernacular, so I apologize in advance, other beauty schools within the Old Town site operating currently. So this is not a stretch.
It's a
My
use
wife
that-
goes to one, so
it's a use that we find compatible within Old Town.
fantastic. Well, welcome. Thank you for opening up your business in Pearland.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor, show by raising your right hand. All those against, same sign. 4-0 carries. Congratulations. All right, then that brings us back to our second item tonight. Consideration possible action, zone change application, zone 24-01. Public hearing, a request by Drake Dominy, Pelican Builders, and Andy Hall, Kimley Horn, and associate applicants on behalf of CBL, Pearland Town Center, Propco, and Pearland Town Center LP, owners for approval of the amendments to the Pearland Town City Plan Unit development on approximately 37.4604 acres of land. Location south side of 11200 Broadway Street, Pearland, Texas. Right. Can I have a call for approval? Second.
Commissioner Dugas, I motion for approval.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
All right. Thank y'all. Being that, turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Patrick Bauer to present the staff report. Patrick, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. As mentioned, this is a zone change request for approval of amendments to the Pearland Town Center Plan Unit development on approximately 37.4604 acres of land. And the future land use of the property is the 288 Gateway designation. To date, staff has received 104 comments against, and comments generally range from concerns about traffic, drainage, noise of the proposed development. So as mentioned, the current zoning of the property is the Pearland Town Center Planning Development, and that is designated with the red outline. That would be the entire plan development. And the subject property that we're looking at tonight is that yellow area. And so it's kind of a light green, and it may get meshed with some of the light yellow, but where it says PUD, that'd be the plan unit development. There's the properties to the south, southeast, and east that are the single family residential 2 zoning. And then the properties to the roughly southwest is the residences. South to southeast is the Business Park 288 zoning district. And looking at the future land use designation of the property, as mentioned, it's the 288 Gateway, and the properties to the north and the east are the 288 Gateway, with the properties to the west being a portion 288. With it mostly being west and south being the medium density residential designation. It's looking at an aerial view of the property. We see the single family residences to the south, which is in that R2 zoning district. We see to the west is a detention pond with an undeveloped lot and a tire shop. And then we have some apartments to the north with some parking on the sides. And then to the east is undeveloped land, and then to the roughly southeast is a floor and decor shop. And so a little bit of history on the property. The Town Center Planning Development was originally established in 2005. The PUD was divided into sub-areas based on the surrounding land use, existing and proposed circulation patterns, and the relationship to the overall development. And I'll actually be showing the next slide, a map of those original sub areas. But the subject area or subject land that we're looking at today comprises a few of the remaining undeveloped parcels within the plan unit development. And the subject land was original, or what is still a part of sub area C as designated, and which is the area of the Pearland Town Center that was exclusively reserved to accommodate the development of a large multi-purpose event and performing arts center, or a privately owned large format retail, theater, or other entertainment uses. So looking at the map, the 2 maps, the one on the left-hand side shows what was originally in the plan unit development document that was approved back in 2005. And the red portion, it may be hard to read, but that's just the town center district. It's where most of the town center is located. The gray area, though, below that is the subject property, and this is what's designated as the events or event center district, sub area C. And then the actual area that's kind of below that, it's kind of a blue purplish. That's designated as sub area F, which is a stormwater management area. And that's where the existing pond is on the property. And so on the right-hand image, we see kind of an aerial image of what the Pearland Town Center looks today. And we see that green area is the subject property where the development is proposed inside of sub-area C. And then that kind of this blue turquoise looking color is the sub-area F and would be the stormwater detention pond area. So going a little more recently, in September 2021, City Council denied a request for a PD amendment for the subject property, which would have allowed for approximately 142 single-family detached residential lots. Moving a little more recent, the subject property came before the joint City Council and Planning and Zoning workshop to discuss PD alterations, and so the applicant originally proposed a single-family rental development on July 10th, consisting of 124 single-family dwelling units. And they received feedback from the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. And then more recently, on November 3rd, 2023, the same applicant presented another time before the joint workshop, and they kind of were discussing the previous single-family rental development as well as a multifamily option on the site, which they also received feedback from P&Z and Council on. So here we get a look of the subject property. We'll kind of break it up into 3 sides because it's a larger tract. So this is kind of more of the western portion of the lot, kind of going towards that undeveloped area and going more towards 288. And then we get a look at kind of more of the middle of the subject property. And lastly, we get a look at the east side of the subject property, which is near that other detention to the west, as well as the tire shop and the smaller undeveloped parcel. So here we get a look at the applicant's proposed design plan for the site. It is broken up into 3 4-story buildings with a clubhouse inside of that more upside down U-shaped building, kind of in the middle of that. And the proposed amendment also proposes that the maximum number of dwelling units that would go into this would be 400 units, and that is a maximum, so they could go under, but they could not go over that amount based on their proposed amendment. So here we get a look at the landscape design plan that they're proposing for the actual site, and this includes such things as like street trees along the kind of ring road that goes through the Pearland Town Center, as well as parking lot trees, and as also like trees within amenity areas such as a pool area or dog park area. And going to the amenity design plan, we see the pool kind of in that U-shaped area, which would be close to the clubhouse. Then we see a play area on the left hand, kind of the building on the left side, and then a dog park on the building to the right side. And those are all kind of more within the multifamily development. Kind of more outside of the multifamily development near the pond, they are also proposing to add additional shade trees, up to 120 shade trees around the trail to kind of increase kind of coverage while people are walking, as well as adding bench areas along the trail. And if you look on the most right-hand side, there's a pond overlook seating area that they are proposing. Here's kind of the architectural intent design plan for the site, kind of based on some of the applicants' other work that they've done, but this is more of the intent of what they would be proposing for the materials of the buildings. And the main deviation that they are requesting to essentially deviate from is that there's a current regulation within the PD that requires that at least 600 square feet of usable common open space be provided for each multifamily unit. Within the site, they would like to request a deviation from that so that the open space requirement for development in sub-area C, which is the multifamily area, may be met with off-site improvements in sub-area F when adjacent to sub-area C. So some of the improvements, essentially, they're requesting that they be done in sub-area F instead of providing them all on sub-area C. And looking at some of the review criteria, in terms of the comprehensive plan, the subject property, as mentioned, is designated for the 288 Gateway designation on the future land use plan. And this area is intended to allow for such things as a large office and medical complexes, campuses, and complementary retail uses with vertically integrated residential uses of high quality. And then in terms of the thoroughfare plan, the subject property is accessible from Broadway Street as well as Kirby and Business Center, which are all roadways that are currently of sufficient width per the thoroughfare plan. And at the time of development, a full traffic impact analysis will be required to assess the potential impact and to recommend any improvements that are needed on site to accommodate the new development. In terms of the utilities, the subject property also has access to city utilities currently. And so in terms of the PD approval criteria, staff found that the request met all 7, and specifically kind of going through them, the proposed PD does fit within one of the criteria for establishing a new PD or making amendments to a PD. As mentioned, the proposed PD is compatible with the 288 Gateway and is consistent with the goals and vision of the Pearland Town Center PUD. Additionally, the proposed multifamily product would not be allowed in a conventional multifamily district. And kind of looking at the surrounding uses, we saw some residential to the south as well as commercial and retail areas to more of the north. And the surrounding area is largely developed. And in terms of to the south, there is the detention reserve, which serves as a large buffer to the residences. As mentioned, the subject property has access to city utilities. And lastly, the proposed PD does provide open space and recreation amenities within the development, as well as proposing additional improvements to the existing detention pond, so it can be a benefit to others as well. So based on the analysis of the criteria for establishing a new plan development district and the criteria for approval above, staff finds that all the approval criteria for granting the zoning change are met. And therefore, staff recommends approval of the amendment to the Pearland Town Center PD. And that concludes staff's report.
Is the applicant here? Applicant here for a presentation? State your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Drake Dominy, 6154 Burgoyne Road, Houston, Texas, 77057.
My name is Ethan Harwell. I'm with Kimley Horn, 11233 Shadow Creek Parkway here in Pearland.
I'm Drake Dominy with Pelican Builders. We're a residential developer based in the city of Houston. We develop high-end multifamily for sale, multifamily and for sale homes. These are some examples of the projects that we built around the city of Houston. So this is just an example of some of the projects, some high-rise condominiums, single-family homes, as well as townhomes around Houston and various municipalities. The attached presentation that Ethan will show here incorporates feedback from staff, council, and commission. This is the third time we've had the opportunity to meet. Excited to at the opportunity to work with the city of Pearland, and our goal is to build a extremely nice project to complement Town Center.
So as I said, my name is Ethan Harwell. I'm with Kimley Horn, planner there. We're very excited to represent Pelican and CBL as planners and civil engineers on this project. As Drake discussed, what came out of the direction we received from the Planning Commission and the City Council last November was a directive to craft a PD that would permit a 4-story multifamily product here, as well as have high-quality amenities that benefited not just our site, but the residents who live nearby. So as we thought about where this site sat, we've recognized its unique importance here. This empty site within the Pearland Town Center is very important to CBL, as this is one of their last opportunities to invigorate and activate this space. This high-density multifamily product that we're proposing here today will really do that. The additional residents that this will permit and folks this will bring to the Pearland Town Center will really help create this and make this a unique place and provide a unique residential product here in Pearland that is walkable. As Patrick described, what we're asking for today is to permit up to 400 units here on the property within sub-area C. The PD today allows 300 across the whole area you see there. 234 of those are within the successful residences at Pearland Town Center complex just across the street from us. The product the Pelican would bring to the Pearland Town Center is really unique in the sense that it is more of an urban style multifamily product. On your traditional garden style multifamily site, you're going to see a dozen, 15, 16, 17, 18 buildings on a site, and that is really where things start to go wrong with those types of development. By concentrating all these units into 3 buildings, you really end up with a lot of eyes on the street. It also allows us to turn everything inward to the development so that you don't see any of the inner workings from the site, from the public realm. So all buildings, all units, excuse me, will be accessed from interior hallways. You won't see stairwells. You will see the surface parking, but you won't see trash collection, anything like that. The product is more of an urban style product. You can see in that rendering, you don't see any stairwells, breezeways, things like that. And we are very intent in working with Meeks and Partners to match the existing Pearland Town Center and really complement and enhance the area. The site sits at a really key location. When you turn to the town center from the main drive, this will be the first thing you see down that central axis. The proposed apartments will be 4 stories tall. All in all, from grade outside of our building to the very top of the cap on our cornice will be about 48 feet, but we are very cognizant of the impact this may have on our residential neighbors. This line of sight exhibit here illustrates everything that we've done to limit the impact this may have on our neighbors' privacy. Our site is situated almost 470 feet away from the single-family property line back there. That's a little over a football field. That line of sight exhibit you see there represents what a person standing in the 4th floor would see. So all in all, we do not expect any problems with folks being able to see into the adjacent single-family neighborhoods behind us. Additionally, this exhibit represents the very closest portions of our buildings to the pond, which are the ends, which will have minimal glazing, minimal ways to view, to look towards our south. The majority of our units will be set back an additional 100 feet or so from that, with the U shape and L shape of our buildings. All in all, we expect this to be similar to that view we just described from you. This was a drone image taken from about 40 feet at our property line. Our buildings would start approximately 70 feet behind that. In terms of amenities, we've planned for on-site amenities with traditional multifamily amenities like a pool, dog park, play area. But we've also really wanted to focus on the exterior of our property and the public realm around our property. So as Patrick mentioned, we're planting street trees along the interior drive that circles the Pearland Town Center. But we're also investing about $150,000 in the area around the detention pond. I was out there today. The south side of the pond is amenitized. You have shade trees. You do have lighting around the pond. But I saw a young man walking along the north side of the pond in the heat with his backpack. So what we're going to be doing is investing about $150,000 in planting about 120 trees through that area to provide shade and visual interest. We'll also be providing seating areas, wayfinding signage, things like that, that will help our site integrate into the existing trail system and really make this an activated space for all parties involved. In addition to that investment around the pond, we will be paying about $285,000 in parkland fees that the city can use to reinvest in parks in the area. And as Patrick mentioned, we have already scoped a TIA with city staff. With that, we'll be studying 6 intersections to ensure that vehicular circulation around our site works, especially over there on Business Center Drive. We'll also be upgrading the existing pedestrian connections that folks use to go from the pond and neighborhood to the south into the town center. We'll be upgrading those to meet all of the current state and federal safety standards, striping, warning signage, etc. That is all we have. Drake and I are available for questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll get back with you. You just sit down right now. We still have to go through the persons wishing to speak for and against. Is there anybody signed up to speak?
We have one person who signed a green form, but since this is the last item on the agenda, I imagine, and I see a lot of people holding up forms, if y'all could bring those up here so we could call you up. Oh, Martin's going over there to help you out. Great.
This is a time that we allow the people wishing to speak for or against the project First one we have is Mitzi Leatherwood. Would you please take the podium and state your name and address?
Yes, I'm Mitzi Leatherwood. My address is 11409 Harris Avenue. I live in the Southgate subdivision, and my home backs up to the pond. The reason that I'm actually representing other neighbors that are here as well. Those ponds, there's two of them, are going to be affected because we all know that if you're going to add about 800 people in such a small area, there will be debris, there will be damage to what's going on there in those ponds. And we walk that pond every single day that the weather permits. And the wildlife there is incredible. I am talking about, one morning I saw a whole flock of white pelicans sleeping on the lake early in the morning in the fog, almost like resting before they continued their journey. Turtles, we have eagles out there, we have ducks, we have loons. We keep binoculars in the back of my home, and we're constantly looking at the wildlife back there. And all of that is going to be affected when you add nearly 800 to 1,000 more people in such a small area. Also, the drainage. We survived Harvey. Our homes did not flood. We're just a small little neighborhood there, and we're surrounded by Costco and Magnolia Parkway, and then Kirby, and then the town center where we have access to that. And so some of the questions that I would have, like you say that what you're building, these apartment complexes, it's benefiting the residents. Well, I'm not sure how that's possible, or how is the pond a true buffer between us and another 1,000 people? Besides the drainage, what else does it benefit other than looking outside of the back of your home and now having the view that you had of the town center and listening to the music even coming down? That is gone. To me, that could be made into something so much more beneficial to that area, to the town center. Maybe the original thing they were going to build, I'm not sure, but it just didn't seem like 37 acres when you look at it. It just has a lot of character right now. And like I said, the wildlife is so important, in my opinion, because that is what makes that area very calming. And right now, I feel very safe to let my teenager walk alone around the park area, around the lake. She can go by herself, walk the dog. And I just don't know that I would feel that safety anymore if this happened. So thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Calvin Reed, please state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. My name's Calvin Reed. I live at 11206 Dawson, and I've been a resident out here in Southgate subdivision. This year in October will be 20 years for me. I was one of the first residents there, and I'm all for growth, change, and all of that. But I think we've done all of that. We don't have. It's no room for 1,000 vehicles. You know, they not mentioned one time about the flow of traffic, people coming in and out. You know, that's my issue. And our grocery store, HEB, across the street from the town center, try to go in there any time of day. You can't even get in there now. And you're talking about adding another 1,000, you know, and I've seen the growth. And it's, to me, as being a taxpayer in this city, it's just not fair to us. And like the young lady just said, we talking noise. The things that, you know, I understand, but I just think I'm for growth, but I think y'all should look somewhere else to put this, you know, property. I don't have a problem with I understand the medical center is there, and these people have to live somewhere, but wouldn't be a good idea for us. And I haven't this has been dumped on us, I think, by email, Thursday? And I spoke to several neighbors who have a clue about it. And no one has said, oh, I think it's a great idea. And everybody's saying, are you serious? I'm like, serious in a heart attack, so I'm here to say, let's rethink this. I hope it hadn't been just, let's do this. Give us an opportunity to talk about it. We just heard about this a couple of days ago. So give us a break. That's all I have to say. At least let us know how the traffic gonna flow or something. We already hugged out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Jonathan James, take the podium, please. You're limited to 3 minutes, and state your name and address, sir.
Jonathan James, address is 11307 Harris. As the first two speakers mentioned, I also live in the Southgate subdivision. My wife and I moved to Pearland in 2011. We both were originally from Houston, and there's a reason why we moved from Houston to Pearland. Quite frankly, the traffic, the congestion, the explosion of this whole regional area we know, Houston, Pearland, surrounding areas, has been a lot. And even the area around Southgate has changed significantly since we have moved there. Now, as the gentleman mentioned before me, it's not that we're opposed to progress or growth, but there are a number of things that are of concern with this project. And we did see in the presentation that a TIA, or traffic impact analysis, is planned. We understand that. But anyone that travels in this area or is in this area frequently understands the congestion is there already. Yes, the city or the authorities have put the don't block the box at the intersection in those notifications, and guess what? The box is frequently blocked. The traffic to the retail areas, all of those areas around there, you have the school, you have business center, you have Kirby. It's not containable in its current status. And I understand with the plan of the images that they showed, entry and exit points, but adding 400 units in that area, as well as the individuals that will house them, it would not be sustainable from a traffic standpoint. There are a number of other things or concerns around this project, the way it has went. As you saw, I think earlier they mentioned that it was approximately 100 written in that were opposed to this. And the only reason it was 100 was because more people did not know about it, in my opinion. The previous examples of when this was proposed, I knew about the 2021 proposal where the minimum housing size would be 1,800 square feet per unit, but I didn't realize that this was also happening last year when they had a hearing apparently about that. I learned about that just now. And I think that the process of going through this, as well as the current use of the space in the area right now, is really indicative of a situation where many of the neighbors, many of us in the area would not be supportive of this, even if you allowed even more extensive comment and study on it. Its overall would be detrimental to the area from the perspective of many of us. And so if you would like a solution proposed or something we would rather have there instead of a multifamily unit, I think a number of us would like to see either something more on the lines that would bring economic development to it versus a multifamily use or something of that nature, something the community could really utilize. But this project as it's proposed to us appears to be detrimental. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. James. Valerie Hobson, please take the podium in 3 minutes and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Valerie Hobson, and I live at 11516 Rochelle Way, and I also live in Southgate community, and I'm the president of our HOA. And we've had numerous people reach out to our HOA, and they are opposed to this development. They're not opposed to developing something to put in that area, but not 1,000 more people or traffic. And also their concerns are the our property values, the character that the multifamily homes would bring to our community. And just like all the other homeowners stated, we're all in agreement to that. And if there's something else that we all need to do so that this doesn't go through, and let's find something else to put there that would better benefit all of us and the surrounding communities, I think that would be better for us. Our traffic, as the other homeowner stated, it's highly congested. Our grocery store is as well. It's the infrastructure, the more cement means what? No drainage into the earth, not into the ground. So the more cement we put there, the more flooding that we're gonna have to endure as homeowners in our community. And as the other homeowner stated, we're just a small community. We're not that big. And that space there that we have there is something that we do look forward to, and we do enjoy what is currently there and looking at the pond and doing all of that. As far as the noise, we already have traffic when we have major events at the town center, and that's fine, but they go home. They're not staying there. And what happens when the multifamily units, all of a sudden, their children start to drive and they have cars? That's not even assessed into the multi-apartment family parking situation. It's only gonna be able to hold so many cars. Just like in our community right now, when our children grow up, we have more cars, right? It's just gonna bring more and more traffic, more cars. And to me, I just think that representing our community, we're all opposed to having apartment or a multifamily unit built between us and our town center. And thank you for letting me speak.
Ms. Valerie, if you need 2 extra minutes because you're the HOA president and representing a larger group, if you would like the extra 2 minutes. I just didn't have a way
great.
to stop.
I was trying to hurry. Okay. They also had environmental concerns, which the impact, such as loss of the greenery that we currently have. And when they all said when we bought our homes there, yes, we've gotten a lot of more development when they widened Magnolia, when they opened up Kirby to all of the community. We were accepting to that. We didn't get a sound wall, and now we want to bring in more noise, traffic, and nuisance that could affect our community. However, they really feel that our strain on our infrastructure, the traffic, the noise and the pollution, and the safety and their privacy, and not to mention our city park. We have a small city park, and the city park is just a small city park. And we currently, right now, when we need emergency EMTs and even parking now, it's just for our community. There's no parking in that little city park. So even though they're gonna have amenities there, they're not gonna be, all 400 homes aren't just gonna stay there. They're gonna utilize our city park and our community. And we already just have what we have just for the 442 homes that we have. And not to mention, we also communicated with some of the other surrounding communities, and they also are opposed to it due to the traffic in the area. And we're all looking for something more of entertaining, and we all are requesting that we keep it zoned as it is and placed there what the zoning was originally set for. And if these nice homeowners, builders, could build somewhere else in Pearland, that would be great. But we just don't feel that that spot is sufficient or should be having more infrastructure for a multifamily unit there. And thank you for giving me those extra 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hobson. Melissa Flores, would you take the podium? Okay, thank you. That brings us to asking if anyone else would like to speak for or against this item. Second call for anyone wishing to speak for or against this item. Okay. Go to the podium, State your name and your address, and please fill out a green sheet when you're done.
My name is Brian Leatherwood, and I live at 11409 Harris Avenue. And I've been a resident there for about 15 years. And I've noticed the changes that have been made. And I just want to echo what's been said here today, that I feel like that area has probably reached a point where it's kind of reached its maximum ability to handle the flow of traffic, people. I can virtually guarantee you that if you were to go throughout this neighborhood and the surrounding communities and ask them if they were before or against this, it would be overwhelmingly against it. You have a pretty small sample size here of people that have actually even are aware of this. And every single one of them are opposed to it. If you've got 104 people that are of the small sample size you have, if you're going to reach out, kind of extrapolate that, you've got 100% opposed. So it's maybe not 104, maybe it's more like 10,000 that are opposed to it in reality, if they were aware of it. And so I ask you to consider that the people that live here, they're more aware of the impact, and they're more aware of the conditions that are around and the true rate of traffic and all the things they have to deal with every day. And what you have here tonight is a sampling of people that not opposed to progress, but they are opposed to being infringed on just a quality of life for them. And when they moved there, they didn't move there with the anticipation they would be so completely surrounded and feeling like they're in Houston. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. It has a feel of Houston that is kind of encroaching into Pearland. And that's really not why they moved here. That's not the expectations of these people. And so again, not opposed to progress or growth, but growth that is regulated, growth that is effective, growth that is beneficial to the community as a whole, and not just to certain parties, but to the people that pay the taxes, live there, have been valuable members of the community for many years, and have been a great resource to this community through paying their taxes. And so we ask you to consider all these things when making these decisions, and consider the fact that the opposition of the community should be a reflection of maybe this isn't the best place to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, third and last time, anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing none. Open it up for commission's discussion.
First off, thank you for everybody that showed up tonight, and especially those that spoke. It's not easy to do. It's nerve-wracking. Unfortunately, I was at the podium in another board, and I felt the nerves, and it's not pleasant. So, but thank you. Everybody's got something to do tonight, and you all took the time, so that's very much appreciated. You may not like me from here on out. But what this board is tasked with is the highest and best use for parcels throughout the city. This land in particular was, I'm going to go back to 2005, 6, and 7 when this was being debated with the planning and zoning, the entire town center, with the city council at the time, and planning and zoning at the time. I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission back in 2005, and through 2015. So I saw many. Well, I saw the original PUD, which we don't even call them PUDs anymore. Now we call them PDs. So it tells you how long ago it was. But in 2005, when they came here, and the city really, I'll just say it, they put handcuffs. We put handcuffs on this development, and it's been a struggle ever since. They've come back to this board and to the city council, I would probably say a dozen times. Is that fair, amendment-wise? So it kind of tells me that it's a restrictive PUD to begin with. That being said, I do have a couple of questions, and one for the applicant itself. Could you help me out with the number of units and then the mix itself and what your expected population is, or a typical population with something using your data?
Right now, we have planned for 380 units. It'll be approximately 65% one bedrooms, and the remaining would be 2 bedrooms.
Given that, what do you typically see in a one bedroom? Is it one person? Is it 3 people? How do you?
I'd say it's probably about a 50-50 split between single residences and couples.
So I mean, I heard 1,000 people. Is that a fair assessment? Would it be closer to 700, closer to 600? What do you guess?
I would say closer to 600.
Okay. Still, to the neighbor's point, 600 residents equals X amount of cars. Maybe not 600, but X amount of cars. And I know you have guidelines. The city has guidelines for parking. You guys are not asking for a variance on the parking, correct?
We're not. We're providing 630 parking spaces.
All right, that was it. I just wanted to get that number that I'd heard. I wanted to make sure where we are at and get the mix as well. I think that's important for us to know as we discuss. Again, open space. I think there's a request for a deviation from open space. In this particular PUD, open space is difficult on that land. I get it. But we have to, for me, I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to say this is part of the Pearland Town Center, and there's plenty of open space. For me, what I like about this project here is that we talk about sustainability, walkability, all those things. This is ideal for Pearland in that a resident here may not put their car back on the road at night, or if they're working from home at lunchtime, because there's restaurants within walking distance. Hey, in July, when it's 105 degrees, they're probably still going to get in their car even to go 200 yards to one of those restaurants. But I appreciate that this is a walkable site, and therefore there will be less cars on the road from that standpoint. You all are going to perform a TIA, a traffic impact analysis. You all are going to be looking at those 6 spots you said, but I think you have to take a bigger picture as well, correct? So you'll be showing your effects on Broadway. You'll be showing your effects on Business Center. You'll be showing your effects on 59, or I'm sorry, I think y'all call it Magnolia over here. The road's got 5 different names, I know, right? But you'll be showing those effects, and if there's a needed mitigation, and that's my word, not probably the official word, but if you had to put a turning lane in, or if it recommended a traffic light, that's your responsibility at that point, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I don't want to focus too much on the height of the building because I think your slide showed it, but this morning I saw the concern of the neighbors. I saw the visual obstruction's not the right word. I don't know the right word. But the privacy of your neighbors to the south is very important. I saw the number of complaints. I was reading through the emails, and I got on some software that we have at work, and I'm sure you guys have that same software. But I measured from the fence line of the neighbor to the property line of this proposed project, so a little past the walking path. I came up with 406 feet. Let's call it 400 for round numbers. Mr. Martin Griggs, if you maybe you have, I know I showed you before, or asked you before, so you're prepared. The UDC itself, and the UDC is our Bible. It's our Unified Development Code. It has a lot of rules and regulations for development and for subdivision, for platting, et cetera, et cetera. Years ago, we studied and we came up with retail nodes. That was the thing when, think of a couple of cross streets. For example, Kirby and County Road 59. There's residents around there. I think that's one of y'all's corners in your neighborhood. And it's not going to be Broadway and 288, right? And so we don't want a whole bunch of development right there. So we came up with residential nodes. Some of them were 5 acres, some of them were 25 acres, or huge ones might be 50 acres. But it was intersections, keeping in mind that those intersections may have residential close to it. So my concern when we studied those and when we discussed them openly in our meetings, my biggest concern was the hotel, and I'm jumping around, I apologize, the hotel that is close to the old JSC Credit Union. It's where the new Buffalo Wild Wings moved to. Maybe that's a good marker. There's a hotel behind it, and adjacent to that hotel is a neighborhood where this 3-story hotel can, and I mean adjacent, it is adjacent. There's no detention pond, there's no walking trail, there's nothing. It is right there. And that bothered a lot of people. The reason that passed is because there were no city rules. That's outside, it was outside of the city when constructed. I think it still is outside the city. Is that, it's not outside the city?
It's within the city now.
It is within the city now. When constructed, it was not, and therefore they didn't have to come to the city to get approval, et cetera, et cetera. They overlooked the neighbors. That was my big concern when we studied the retail nodes. So we came up with this diagram, and that was suggesting that there's a 6 or 8 foot fence, and then you have a 25-foot buffer that nothing can be built in, no building, no parking lot, no nothing. From the point of the fence going outward, if you every 3 feet you go out, you can go up 1 foot, a building could. So the only building that can exist is in the unshaded or where there's no diagonal lines. In your case, using this standard, 406 feet, or let's call it 400 feet, they could, if this were a retail node, where this rule applies, they could go up 133 feet. They're not asking to do that. I'm just bringing that up that would be acceptable in our current city rules. And maybe we can debate whether 3-to-1 is fair or not, but I often refer back to this because this to me was the one visual something that we had to protect neighbors. I think honestly, their diagram was significantly better than this one and what I described here. But I wanted to point out that this isn't without a lot of thought. I'm assuming that your 4th floor, is somebody standing on the 4th floor, they're going to be 35 or 40 feet tall. Their feet will be, and then add 6 foot tall, lady or gentleman. That's the line of sight I think that you all were trying to show, and that I was thinking before you stole my thunder.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. So I guess if this project did not have the detention buffer, if it were not 400 feet away, and if you guys had put the property line, the multifamily on the property line itself, I would have had a lot more reservation than I do currently. For me, 400 feet, plus there's a row of parking, there's an aisle, a driving aisle, and a row of parking, which are typically 18 feet plus 25 plus 18 more. That's another 60 feet. You guys are pretty far away from the residents. So I do take comfort in that. I take comfort in that, and I also take comfort in, I can tell you right now, this is honestly the highest and best use I can come up with. I heard a lot of the citizens say, you'd like something else. So would I. And in 2005, we discussed what else could be there. And it has sat empty for the last 19 years or 18 or 17 years, whenever they got constructed. I don't know that it's going to be anything else. We had townhomes that came through that economically didn't work. We had some single family style that came, economics do not work. It was suggested even through city staff, which it was the first time I'd ever heard them say, and the gentleman's no longer here. He didn't get fired because he said it, but he said something like multifamily actually makes more sense than this other project. And I actually think it does. So unfortunately, for the residents here that are, wishing for me to say, I don't like it, leave town, to the applicants, I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to be the person that's going to vote for it. And I do want to say one more thing. As I read through, I read a lot of one concern, and then one of the things I read. Let me go to the property values. I read a lot of property values decreasing. I honestly could debate that very effectively. Unfortunately, I'm a real estate broker by license. I also have a license to protest property taxes. I can tell you that I could go to the Brazoria County Appraisal District and argue that, well, they're building multifamily right there. That wouldn't give them, they would not acknowledge that as a reduction of your property values. That doesn't matter to you when you're trying to sell your house. It doesn't matter to you what some appraiser says in Angleton. You're trying to sell your house on an open market with a willing buyer. I don't know that a multifamily project 400 feet away is going to really deter your property values. It's going to be based on square footage. I know that's not what you want to hear, and I know that you're probably shaking your head or saying this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I too have been in Pearland for 25 years now, 30 years, and I've watched the property values. So I think I have a good feel on it. What really disturbs me the most is that some of you stated that you were told that nothing would ever be built behind your fence. That really bothers me, that somebody would tell you that or mislead you in that direction. The only thing that ever prevents that is if you own the land yourself, or an entity controls it and it's deed restricted, or by law they can't do certain things. It bothers me that some of you had that impression, or that somebody would have told you that, and I'm sorry that that ever happened. Because I know home builders sometimes in the sales that they have, they say things that they shouldn't, and they promise things that they shouldn't, and it's not the first time we've heard that here. And I'm sorry that you guys, any of you may have heard that. So I think I've said one last thing 3 times now. I did speak to some people that work at the Pearland Town Center, one of which is in a restaurant, and I told them about what was proposed tonight, and they're very excited. Actually, for them, it's the walkability, it's the extra customers that they'll have, and quite frankly, some of those businesses aren't doing so well in this economy. So, thank you for your patience, and thank you for listening.
Okay, so Martin, can you clarify what the current allowed use is of this land?
So currently with this area being in Subdistrict C, the only thing that the planned development would allow is for that entertainment or large-scale retail to go in there.
So like a concert venue, potentially. You said entertainment, so
I'm seeing more. So entertainment is typically an indoor entertainment, as it's described. So
like a
you
main
could-
event.
You could have like a main event or something.
And then I think that we've talked in the 2040, area, certain areas to have these concert venues or multi-bar and restaurant facilities, convention center. This was one of the sites, and the other one was Bass Pro location, but really no one has wanted to come forward and present those plans.
We haven't seen someone pick up that gauntlet yet.
Yeah, but this was one of the locations, if I'm remembering correctly. It was
Correct.
by here because it's got the parking and all, next. So the reason why I bring this up is because I totally understand. Somebody said they have a daughter that walks the area, but when I think about what's over there, I'm not sure. I mean, this was always slated to be developed as something, and it's either going to be a multi-story housing, or it was going to be some type of multi-bar and restaurant facility. And we're talking about a very large, similar development as this. I don't see it being any smaller. So when we did the Pearland 2040, we kind of reached out to the city of Pearland residents several times and asked, what do you want this to be? What do you envision all these areas to become? And there was feedback, but on this specific area, some of the feedback that we get from residents is that they need affordable housing. And I'm not talking about housing for poor. I'm talking about for people who are young working professionals that have just moved here. They're teachers, they're firefighters, there's police. They can't afford to go out and get a $300,000 house. If you go look up the real estate right now in Pearland, you can't buy a house for $250,000. They can't. So this is a starter place where they can live in the community of Pearland. And this is one of those things that we've been trying to achieve over the last few years is how do we provide people this buffer before they can afford their first family home? Where are they going to live that's in a nice community, near nice neighbors? Where are they going to afford to live? And one of the products that was brought to us here was a townhome project where people could buy it, but it was so unaffordable. I want to say somebody said the rent one time was $4,000. What school teacher can live off that rent? Nobody can. So I think that one of the goals in serving on this board is to say, how do I look out for the people in my community who are young professionals, who also want to live here, who want to have a really nice place to live, maybe live nearby, restaurants and bars or other areas, easy commute. I think this is an ideal spot for that. I do think that the buffer around the detention pond buffer is ideal because I would never be okay with this right up next to your backyards. The other thing on traffic, the issue with traffic in this area is not, and I completely understand your frustrations. I shop at the town center. I'm always mad at how congested it gets. But a lot of that congestion is coming from lack of access onto 288. And just like they did at the Saltgrass that's across 288, where they built in the 2 driveways to access, they really need to do the same thing. Pearland and TxDOT need to get together and come up with a solution to provide for people to get onto 288 without going all the way to Broadway. That's where that hangup is. It's right there. If they could get some access points onto 288 going right, going southbound, they can even turn around. That would relieve a lot of traffic. So I think that's one thing, if you guys are concerned about it, that is something I would highly recommend. Find out who at TxDOT Pearland needs to talk to and let Pearland know this is something you want, because when they accessed or opened it up on the other side, it really helped. The other thing is I wanted to discuss the drainage. So the drainage criteria is a little stricter now than what it was, but this detention pond was actually already built for this particular site. So the drainage for the site is already covered. except for I think they do still have to meet the 0.05 difference from 0.65 to 0.7 acre feet per acre, correct? From engineering?
That's correct. And the engineer is currently verifying that it's adequately sized per design criteria.
Yeah. And then not only that, you cannot fill any dirt in the floodplain. So can you bring up the floodplain map? Because somebody said something about Harvey and flooding. Other way, when you develop in Pearland, any new development, it's not allowed to fill an area. It's a 1-to-1. For every 1 foot of fill you put in, you have to take 1 foot of fill out somewhere in some basin. So the guidelines are very strict, way more strict than they were in a lot of our neighborhoods in Pearland. And in fact, I also served on the Drainage Bond Committee, and I can tell you that some of the older neighborhoods that have or struggle with drainage is because their storm sewers are under capacity. I mean, the storm sewers should be bigger, and they're not big enough. So I'll let Martin bring up the floodplain map, because I want you guys to know that we do take your comments seriously, but if we can address your comments, we really do want to, because I understand you would be worried about drainage. Everyone's worried about drainage. So is this area Zone X now? I can't remember. I don't think it is.
It's not in the floodplain, though.
Yeah, it's not. Okay, so it's not even in a 500-year or 100-year zone. And like I said before, the detention pond has been there. How long has this Pearland Town Center? I mean, it was kind of there before I moved here in 2007. So a very, very long time. So really, this track has been slated for development of some sort in the same fashion, whether it be a concert or, even if it's a small outdoor venue, but bars, restaurants, convention centers. But no one is coming to the table with that. And I'm not sure that's what you would want over residences who may live there, where this is just their first place to go to live, and their teachers and their firefighters and their policemen. Like, I'm not sure you would want this to be some other type of development that's there, but for it to be undeveloped land, that would take a community to buy out this land. And that's something that Pearland has no decision. We don't own the land. We can't stop a land from being developed, and it will be developed. So I think that's why I'm in favor of this, but I hope that bringing up these points have helped you guys better understand what this development, how they will take care of detention. They will have to look at traffic, but whatever traffic that they look at, it still doesn't take away the fact that there could be traffic improvements, but that's a coordination between TxDOT and Pearland. And that it should not increase any flood risk. And that's it.
Yeah, I have actually, I'm glad this slides up. So to the left, is there only one access point into the complex? Am I seeing that right, or is there another one that I'm not seeing?
No, sir, we would have two. We would have the one on the left and the one.
Okay, the one in the middle. Okay, that's okay. I was just making sure. I saw a couple of different colors there, so I didn't know if it was a walkway or just wanted to make sure. And then also, my other question is that I know you said, and this is for the developer, out of the 380 units, 60% is 1 bedroom, 40% 2 bedroom. What are your thoughts on, or what's the idea for how much you're going to charge, or how much would be charged per month for the rent? What kind of range, I guess?
The rent would range from $1,300 to probably up to $2,300 for the largest unit.
Okay. And then I guess after the traffic impact study when will that be shared? Or when will that be conducted?
We'll conduct our traffic impact study between approval of this PD and approval of our site development plan.
Okay.
Part of that will be that TIA is required before our site development plan because we are required to give
Right.
the city plans for how we're going to improve the intersections.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Boy, this is a tough one. This site has been brought to us numerous times, as everybody said, and I'm not going to go back all over that, but it has been something over the years that has been brought to us time and time again. When we had this brought to us this last summer, they had some other ideas of what they wanted to do with the property as well, and we turned some of them down and decided on this one was the best path going forward. The one thing that when they came back to us in, I think it was November, and we all like this, including city council. Everybody was in favor of it. But the one thing that we did say, and I'm disappointed that this didn't get done, Councilman Carbone made the statement that this looks really great, but everything can change when we have 50 people show up against it. So I'm disappointed that y'all didn't go out and reach out to the development or to the neighborhoods there and talk to them and try to ease this. They're going off a blind. They don't know, and it's before I started serving on this, I didn't know either. But the drainage, the permit, all this type of stuff, it's all taken care of. There's laws against putting water off on y'all. There's all kinds of traffic studies. There's all kinds of environmental impact studies. All this type of stuff that's done before a developer can go in there and just build at will. The one thing that could be built at will is an event center, and whether it's a concert center or something like that. And I mean, I don't think any of y'all would like to live in a concert center like the Woodlands. I mean, yeah, you might like some of the music that gets there, but I guarantee you there's going to be some of it you don't. And it'll be blaring. So this right here, this is a high end. This isn't your low end apartment complexes. They've done everything to try to make sure that it has as little impact upon the citizens as possible. As Commissioner Hendricks said, we did a study and put it out for Pearland 2040. It's what we sent out and had all the citizens come back and talk to us about what they would like to see in these certain areas. And a lot of it that we got feedback from was a walkable community. And this fits the bill of a walkable community. Now, I am going to say this. Y'all probably not going to like our vote. We are not the last authority on this. City Council is the last authority. But I would really highly recommend that the applicant reach out to y'all's HOA and have a meeting and try to talk to everybody in order to try to calm some of y'all's fears, because this is going to be developed. I heard one lady talk about the ducks and stuff and the swans, pelicans and stuff. Well, no matter what we do, we're going to impact that. Whether if they go in there and they build a concert venue and have it filled up with parking lot, and I mean, that could very well be. You go in there and I would rather look at a structure that's being maintained really well than a concert venue with a bunch of parking spots on either side. Either way, the grass has gone away and you got nothing but parking lot. You know, but like I said, I would highly recommend that something like that be done, because city council may look at it different than we do, but I think y'all are probably going to be disappointed in our vote, because this is something we've really thought hard on. We've studied on it. When we got this notice, we don't just get this and sit there and say, well, that's a moneymaker. Bam. We don't do that. We think about how this is going to impact the citizens, because we look at like we're a front line to help the citizens if we can. But the bottom line is this development was set up to, this PD was set up to build something in it. And for 25 years, it's been stagnant. A landowner has the right to do certain things with their property within the restrictions of the law. So I'm probably going to be a yes on this. And but like I said, I feel for y'all's concerns and stuff, but I still go back and repeat myself for a third time. It's something that I would like to see the applicant possibly set up something with y'all and have a meeting with y'all. So yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we had a call with the Southgate County, or the Southgate Board, on January 15th. We had a video call with all the board members, and we also provided a presentation showing a drone visual and the site plan of this development.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay.
Member Eisenberg, are you accepting additional public testimony, or was this still part of the dialogue with the applicant?
Well, I mean, I would like to hear from both sides. Is that acceptable?
It wouldn't be according to the rules that are established, but there are privileges that the chair can make, and I just wanted to make sure that that was one that you were taking at this time.
Yes, sir. If I can, I would like to.
Yes, Pelican did meet with some of the board members. It wasn't all of us. However, they did voice their concerns, the ones that were able to attend the conference call, and they were not for it. And they did reach out, and we did reach out and let them know that we needed, there was another reason, because in the past, as you guys had shown earlier, that there was another builder that wanted to build on that property, and it was because of the privacy, and the homeowners were against that as well. And that was mentioned to Pelican during that conference call, and that we needed to reach out to the homeowners and get that information to them. And in that time, it was trying to gather all of everything that was Pelican, was going to do, and to do our research and trying to find out what could be built there in January. But in that time, life happens, people are working and everything else. And so, we never got to it until the homeowners got the letters for the zoning change, and it came across on social media in the Southgate community and the surrounding communities, where everybody was like, what is this? What is this? But everybody didn't get the zoning letters. So then they got that, and they passed that around. And that was last week when that came out. And that's how the homeowners found out, because we didn't have the information, because we had no idea it was even up for rezoning. Like in the past, we were made aware of prior to, like the November meeting, none of us had any clue until they reached out to the management company and asked to have a meeting with us. So I just want to make that clear.
And it's Miss Valerie Hobson, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you're the HOA president?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, I have one more question. So you were saying that on the lower end, the rent's $1,300. Do these buildings, do they have any elevators?
Each building will have an elevator.
So it's very plausible that you will have, well, that would be great for the senior citizens, and I'm only saying that because Right now, we have a high housing crisis for our seniors who are living on a fixed income, especially Social Security and what little 401k they have. And at $1,300, that's probably going to be the most reasonable rent price I've ever seen in Pearland, and for it to be brand new, nice, and have access to an elevator, because it's really hard for them to find a first floor apartment. And so I know because I'm dealing with it with my mom. And so I do welcome that, and I sure hope that you guys slate some of those 1 bedrooms for seniors in your project there. That was it. I want to find out.
I did want to address the concern that you weren't notified in November. What happened in November was it was a workshop. That's when I should have put my air quotes around the workshop. Workshops are typically when a developer is thinking about doing a certain project on a certain parcel, and the neighbors aren't notified or don't have to be notified by Texas law, I believe, for a workshop. Is that, I don't want to say anything that's untrue, so please jump me if I do. This now is a public hearing, and there is a state law that requires that the city, or I believe county as well, needs to notify, and I believe it's called the 200-foot abutters map. So anybody living within there we go, thank you. Anybody living within that shaded area, and you see that's why only some neighbors were notified, but others were not. They didn't, the entire neighborhood doesn't fit within 200 feet of the Pearland Town Center or CBL ownership, that parcel. So I just wanted to make sure nobody's trying to withhold information from you, but there's certain rules and regulations that the city has to follow whenever a public hearing like this takes place.
And just to confirm, Commissioner Fuertes, you are right. The workshop does not require additional notification other than the standard 72-hour notice. And then what you see on the screen right now is both the outline in red of the existing planned unit development, well, red and yellow, and then the 200-foot buffer around that property line, including some of the HOA-owned property with their detention pond.
Okay, no more discussion? Okay, I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor of the zone change signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Carries 4-0. All right, that moves us, so we had put the consent agenda. Okay, all right. Let's hang on just a second while they clear out.
Mr. Brian Leatherwood, you're not being called back to the principal, but we did not get a green sheet for you. We'll help you guide it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Are you ready to proceed, sir?
Okay, we had moved the consent agenda to the end. All right. We're going to have some guidance here. I'm going to, do we proceed with the minutes to be approved and then pull the absenteeism? Or can we address the absenteeism now?
If anybody wants to discuss absenteeism, they need to pull that item from the consent agenda.
Okay.
Commissioner Fuertes, I would like to pull from the consent agenda the portion, here we are, item A, consideration for the excused absences from the consent agenda.
So
Does
then
that
somebody
require-
would, that one doesn't need a second, it's just being pulled. So
Okay.
then what we would need is somebody to make a motion to approve consent agenda absent or excluding item A. So
Okay,
moved.
can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item A? And a second.
So moved.
Commissioner Fuertes, second.
All right, that leaves us open. That would,
So now we take a vote on the consent agenda, which would exclusively be item B.
okay. All in favor? By your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Carries 4-0. Okay, that leaves us open to
Items removed from the consent agenda, which will be item A.
what he said. All right, I've prepared a little something. First off, just in case y'all did not know.
Before you proceed, would somebody please present item A for consideration of possible
okay.
action?
All righty. All right, presenting item A, consider impossible action, excused absences. Excuse the absence of Commissioner Jennifer Hendricks, Commissioner Brad Kuhn, Commissioner Angela McCatherine for the February 5th, 2024 meeting.
Commissioner Fuertes, motion for approval.
Commissioner Dugas, second.
And now it's a discussion item because
All right,
it was not
now-
on the consent agenda.
Okay, I kind of prepared something for y'all, and I'm afraid that I might be preaching to the choir here now, but for y'all that weren't aware, Commissioner Boswell tendered her resignation week before last. Her job is going to take her to Atlanta, and it was going to be continuation of what was happening for the last 3 months, and she didn't feel like she could devote the time to it, and she did not want to leave the commission or the council with a bad taste in their mouth, because she would like to come back when her life allows it to serve the city in some capacity, and which I find that I totally agree. I think she was an asset to this board, and I think she'd be an asset going forward. So, all right, I pulled Henry pulled the consideration to a purpose to talk about what his expectations of attendance. First of all, I want to commend anybody that at this point in their life that they find that they want to go coach, they want to be in their kids' lives. I think that's absolutely first priority is your family. This is very secondary to that. I feel like that when somebody has worked their entire life and have the wherewithal to go and make trips and do things, I think that's commendable, and I think they should do it. They earned it. They have a right to. But that being said, we have a responsibility to this commission and to the city and to the applicants in the community at large, that we make this a priority in showing up for our meetings, not only these meetings, but the workshops, the committees that we're tasked with going and being a part of. I think that we should be making that a top priority. Now, I understand, we need a quorum in order to even be able to function as a commission. And that's 4 on this commission. And you see tonight we have 4. And last week, or the last meeting, we were sweating bullets to whether we were going to have 4 show up. We've got 2 people that serve on this committee that serve in a capacity that it's very likely that they may have to excuse themselves because of a conflict of interest. So it's very important that we have all our commissioners show up. I know that City Council has been, and I want to say, everything that I listed, those priorities change in our life. There was a time that my priority was to coach my kids in basketball and baseball and such as that. But I wasn't serving on a board. I chose that later in life is when I would do the service to my community. I feel like that most of us feel that way. I mean, career right now for some of us, if you're career building right now, you need to look at it really heavily, whether you can devote the time to this. I mean, in career should be your priority at certain times in your life. I know that I've talked to some of the city councilmen and they've talked about discussing a policy change. Right now, we have a policy on the board that says if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, that is grounds for the dismissal from the commission. We have somebody that fits that bill tonight. I have given a suggestion that along with 3 consecutive, right now it's 3 consecutive P&Z meetings. I think it ought to be 3 meetings no matter what they are. 3 consecutive meetings, that would mean, let's say for a workshop in 2 P&Z meetings. If that's 3, then that ought to be grounds. I don't know what they have to do to go through that. I think there's some legalities involved in it. But I also made the suggestion that if we miss 4 P&Z meetings in a year, or a total of 6 meetings, including meetings scheduled by the city council for us to attend, all subject to removal from the commission. I don't mean this to be a threat or anything to anybody sitting here. I think that most of y'all can understand that we've got a problem and we need to discuss it. But something's got to change. This is our attendance has been very poor, in my opinion. I don't know what else to say. I hate to be the one to have to bring this up, but I think that we have, to put it bluntly, we have 2 commissioners that we need to consider of having them step down or being reassigned to maybe a less frequent of meeting type of commission. So that being said, I'm going to open it up and see what y'all got to say about it.
Well, along with the items that you mentioned of being honorable to be a coach and stuff, Commissioner Hendricks is furthering her education, and I think that's very commendable as well. And I know you even in the break room last time before the meeting, you were attending class. So I know I applaud you for making every effort to be here when you do. So thank you for that. I think though what I've noticed is years that I've been on Planning and Zoning Commission, you did everything you could to make the meeting, and it was an exception, a big exception if you missed. And when I was chair for multiple years, I would get calls from commissioners, and it was a very much an apologetic type call that, hey, I'm so sorry this came up, I can't be there. Even our Commissioner Boswell would say, you know, I'm stuck in traffic, or she'd send a text, I'm going to be there either right on time or 5 minutes late. Please wait for me. That was very commendable. But I think today it almost seems like, I'll make it if I can, and that's when it's not acceptable. So, and I'm not speaking for anybody else. I've missed more meetings in the past 6 months than I have ever missed, and it might only be 1 or 2. I don't know. But my work did take me to Florida. So my apologies for that, but I try very, very hard to make every meeting, and I try to join committees when we have them. Commissioner Boswell did the same when she was able to. She jumped on the CPAC committee and participated quite a bit. So that's my comments.
So far, I haven't had any attendance problems myself. But I'll let you know if I do. But so far, I've enjoyed serving on here, and I enjoy serving, you know, as a citizen of the city of Pearland, and hope to, you know, serve my entire term without any issues. So I'll let you know if I have to miss any upcoming meetings. But I appreciate what you said. I mean, when the city, the citizens of this city, you know, expect city government to function, and we can't function whenever we don't have a quorum, and it messes things up. And so, I mean, I fully respect that, and I feel like if you're appointed to a position, you should accept that with great honor, and you should attend, you know, and I mean, there's nothing else to it. I mean, if you're being appointed by a group that has faith in you to attend, now, although myself, I mean, I have a lot to learn still, and I'm learning it as fast as I can, but, you know, I expect it as a citizen myself, you know, and that's why I wanted to get involved in the first place, was because, you know, I wanted to I'm not saying that the city wasn't functioning. I'm just saying that I wanted to get involved. And so I started attending meetings and, got to know some of the people involved in the meetings. And so I appreciate being appointed. And so I'll do the best I can to serve in my role. Thank you.
I'm not, so going back to the options, you said 3 in what time frame?
Actually, the way that it's written right now, and Lawrence, correct me if I'm wrong, it says that if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, P&Z meetings, you're subject to removal from P&Z.
The
The way it's
charter,
written right now.
so there are 2 different provisions that could come into play. The first comes from the Pearland Charter, and in the charter, it says that any member who is absent from 3 consecutive meetings of the commission without valid excuse, as determined by the commission, shall automatically be dismissed from membership. So that's from the charter. It's got to be 3 consecutive ones without valid excuse. It does not define valid excuse, and as of now, I believe anybody who has been absent has been excused based on that provision. So that one is not the controlling provision. Then the P&Z rules of procedure that have been adopted say that cause for removal may include, but is not limited to, absence from 3 meetings without notice to the chairperson. So there you see it doesn't have the consecutive, and it tries to give the example, something without notice would be something that would be unexcused. Of course, somebody were in the hospital or something like that, of course you have to use discretion. There might be a reason why they didn't let us know they weren't going to be here. And then it carries on to say 3 meetings without notice to the chairperson prior to the meeting, unexcused, within a 12-month period. So as you were saying, you look back a year. Here it's a 12-month look back. We're not looking for calendar year. We're not looking for appointed term. We're just doing a 12-month look back, and that would be the difference there. And then, of course, it puts the burden on the chair to make sure that city council knows what the attendance has been.
I think what we have is good. It's just that we always excuse every absence. So maybe that's the difference, is just sticking to the rules, because I don't know that we've stuck to the rules.
Yeah, it will always be within your discretion, and unless and until city council defines it differently, it will be your discretion to determine whether or not an excuse is valid. And it may be that going out of town for work is a valid excuse, but if you see it multiple times, then you may say, is it appropriate for this person to continue serving? They clearly have another priority, which is fine. Life changes, commitments change. And if you have another commitment that's stopping you from being here, we don't have a problem with that, but let's let somebody else be here to serve in that capacity, and we can put you back on the board or on a different board, depending on what the circumstances may warrant.
Also, you're exactly right. I mean, our priorities in our life change from time to time, and we need to reevaluate it. I don't want you to think we're picking on you, because we're not. You had, but to be fair with these, Henry and I have probably served the most on planning and zoning. I can't remember one time that we ever did not excuse an absence. Sitting through a lot of city council and watching it on the closed circuit or on the internet, I've never seen them not excuse an absence as well. Well, I take that back. Woody Owens pulled it one time when Ordino missed, and it was when Ordino's last term, and he did it just as a joke. But that was the only time that I know of that it was pulled for no excuse, and then they excused him. So that is the only time. And just so people know that this was brought up in the council meeting last week, and Councilman Carbone's credit, he did bring it up that, not only do the commissioners need to look at it and the committees need to look at it, that city council needs to look at it as well. We're not the only ones with the problem, from what I understand. Would it be out of line to ask how many absences we've had in the last year from 2 of our councilmen that are missing tonight? Commissioners, I'm sorry.
No, sir, it wouldn't be out of line to ask it, and if we have the data, we'll provide it. But I also want to caution you, the item on tonight's agenda is whether to excuse an absence or not to adopt a policy.
Well, I agree.
Or to change a policy.
I agree, but
I don't pretend to know what the notices were. My understanding is the obligation is they're supposed to let you know whether they're going to be able to make it or not. I don't know if that has happened or not. But I think that we may have an idea of, I don't know how current it is. Vance, Dino?
So how far back, and good evening, everybody, Chair, Commissioners. So how far back would you want to look at? I mean, we do have the attendance records, and can talk about that if y'all feel it's appropriate.
Let's go back for the last year.
Okay. And you want to go just member by member?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay. So would you like to also include Boswell's in that, Commissioner Boswell's?
I think that's
not necessary?
That's not necessary.
Okay, no problem. We'll start with Commissioner Dugas. Perfect attendance. Break the ice a little there. Looks like Commissioner McCatherine has 4 going back to May of 23, and then going back to January of 23, it'd be 7. Yeah, that's absences. So 7 attendances going back to January of 23. Going back to March of 23, Commissioner Kuhn is at 8. Similarly, going back to March of 23, Commissioner Hendricks is at 4. And Commissioner Cortez was recused one time and has 2 absences going back to March of 23 as well. And Chair Eisenberg, 1, 2, 3. Looks like going back to March is at 5. I believe that covers everybody. And since I'm unmuted, I guess I'll go ahead and just say first want to thank the commission for tabling the item. I think it is important. That said, thank you again for your service. This is volunteerism, and so you are electing to serve your community. With that, I think the development world is a rare one where you serve 2 customers. You have the development community that you're serving, which would be the developer who is here tonight. Then you also have the citizens of our community that you're serving as well. And so you do find yourself in a bit of a crossfire at times. That said, it's also the developers that you impact with a lack of quorum. You know, the gentleman here tonight, they spent thousands of dollars to have this presentation get before you. They've waited months to talk about this. And just for reference, I know it's also a controversial project, but this is a $70 million project. And so $70 million project, thousands of dollars to get here tonight. And then also whenever you do only have 4, a vote of 3-1 can impact their process with city council, moving it to need like a supermajority, for example. And so the actions y'all take or don't take, they do impact what we do. And so thank y'all very much for taking the time to discuss this. And I know it is hopefully just a blip on the radar whenever as we move through getting new attendees or new appointments and moving forward.
Okay, do we take a vote on this as for whether we approve or disapprove these absences?
Yes, sir. That would be what the item is. If you wanted to break it down commissioner by commissioner, you're welcome to do that as well. It would be up to you as to how you want to do that.
Okay.
Can I make the motion? I think I was the one that made this motion, or was that?
You pulled it.
I pulled it. No, but usually the person that makes the motion and the second, if they make a change, then we don't have to vote on the change of the motion.
Commissioner Fortes, I have that you made the motion and Commissioner Dugas seconded it.
Okay. Can I make the motion that we excuse Commissioner Jennifer Hendricks and at the same time not excuse the absence of the other 2 commissioners?
Yes, sir. You could do it that way if that's what you'd like.
And so moved.
Seconded.
Commissioner Dugas, second.
Any discussion?
So then we don't have to vote on that change of motion, correct? Because
Yes, sir. If I understand it correct, the pending motion on the floor, as you would vote, because you made the motion and Commissioner Dugas seconded it, it's going to actually be a motion to amend to excuse the absence of Commissioner Hendricks from the February 5th, 2024 meeting, but not excuse the absences for Commissioner Kuhn and Commissioner McCatherine for that meeting. Is that what the intent is?
for the record, absolutely.
All right, call for the vote. All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. It carries 4-0. Okay, now that we've disapproved of it, is there any further action that we can take?
No, sir, that would be the remainder of the action for this item, because that was
Okay.
the only item that was on the agenda. I do believe that it would be possible if somebody wanted to revisit that item, because, it's the excusal of an absence. With proper request, if additional information comes in, you could approve that at a future date. You could approve the excusal at a future date.
Okay. Would it be proper, or should I reach out to each one of the people that we disapprove tonight and have us talk with them?
You can. It's always the chair who is the liaison. Staff does not intercede in that matter because it puts staff in the awkward position of essentially being the principal on a student who also oversees you, so to speak.
Okay.
So it would be the chair's responsibility and/or city council's responsibility, and it would be up to you to determine if you feel appropriate to reach out and say, hey, we didn't do it on this night, and then we didn't say why you didn't approve it on this night for these people. You didn't say if they had provided you the appropriate notice, or you were concerned about a change in life circumstances and wanted additional information, or whatever it might be. So I assume that it's for all those reasons that y'all kind of talked about earlier on in the discussion. And, if they have that additional information that they want to provide, then we could revisit it at that time.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have, discussion items? What about city council update?
Yes, sir. So there was only one item that was on the February 12th City Council meeting agenda that would have been a concern of a prior item that the Planning and Zoning Commission saw. This was an extension for a previously approved conditional use permit for 3205 Dixie Farm Road. That's the site just behind Home Depot that y'all saw an assisted living facility come through. They had a few issues that they're working through privately in order to get that development moving through. And as such, they requested council extend their ability to submit permits, and that was approved by the city council.
That's it? All righty. Commissioner's activity report. Anybody have anything?
Just one question I'm going to use this time, and Lawrence will probably tell me I shouldn't. We've talked about excused absences, et cetera. Has council interviewed for the vacancy that we currently have? And hopefully there's people in the hat for future vacancies if there are any?
I can say that was an item that was discussed at the last council meeting, and I would expect there to be an appointment at the next council meeting, but I couldn't guarantee anything.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, hearing none. I'm going to call this meeting closed at 8:28. Yes.